Well, since no one has the balls to actually mention what the real problem is in Springfield, Ohio, I thought I better get on here and do it, okay? Now, for those of you who don't know, my international viewers, Ohio is an interior state of the United States. It's a pretty populous state with like 13.5 million people. This dot right here is where we're talking about today. It's Springfield, Ohio. Okay. Now, this small rural town has garnered national and perhaps international headlines over the last week or two because the government has suddenly toilet flushed 20,000 Black French speaking Haitians into this 80% white town. Okay? So I'm sure all of you out there can already figure out what the real issue is, right? But what's odd is that nobody else can. If you look at the big media's coverage of this, or even the alternative media, right? If you look at all these videos that have been put out on YouTube in the last couple days about what's going on in Springfield, Ohio, none of them will mention what the real issue is. All of them dance around the real issue and focus on these tangential, peripheral issues like the migrants appear to be eating people's pets. They're evidently attacking the wildlife in the parks, beheading ducks and such in the parks and eating them. And then also that, the housing crisis that it's causing. And all of those are real issues, obviously, but they're not the real issue. The real issue that none dare mention is that the white people in this town are being ethnically cleansed out of their own town. They're being forced to flee out of their own town. And they're being given absolutely no say at all in the demographic makeup of their community. Okay? Aliens were brought in under some new executive order. Where in the Constitution does it give Joe Biden or any other president the right to just pick up hundreds of thousands of people in some foreign land and bring them and dump them in your town? This is the real issue that none dare mention. Why is it that white people are not allowed to have their own communities and their own living space? Why? What's even more shocking is that it's not just Springfield, Ohio. This exact same program is being enacted all across Europe and the entire Western world. It doesn't matter what white Western nation you look at, they are all being inundated with the same program, where NGOs and governments and the media are working hand in hand to airlift, literally in this case, airlift or boat lift millions and millions and millions of alien third worlders into every white nation on earth and every white community on. Meantime, the big media has their 24/7 propaganda mouthpiece running about how we need to just accept this reality. We need to accept diversity. We need to accept being displaced in our own communities and homelands, and that we're hateful if we don't accept it. We're racist. You're racist if you don't accept that. Why don't these white people have the right to exist in their own communities and live in peace?
Like total strangers in their hometowns.
I'm done with what I'm seeing. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have made concessions with them, and I try to help them the best I can to keep them. I'm trying to squat on my property, but it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move.
Time to pack up and move.
I can't do this anymore.
What no one will mention is that many of the white people, perhaps even this lady, who are living in Springfield right now, they used to live here. Okay, if you go back a generation ago, many of them lived here in the city of Dayton, and they were forced out of Dayton en masse when blacks were brought up from the South, turning the thriving white city of Dayton, Ohio, into what people referred to as Little Detroit, because it literally had a crime and murder rate comparable to the city of Detroit, Michigan. So this lady right here might well be a second generation white flighter here, who's now being forced to having her, many of them were forced to flee out of Dayton because of the blacks, and now they're being forced to flee out of Springfield.
He said it's killing both of us mentally. I don't understand what you expect of us as citizens. I mean, I understand they're here under temporary protected status and you're protecting them, and I understand that our city services are overwhelmed and understaffed. But who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me?
Nobody.
I want out of this. I want out of this town. I am sorry.
So once again, white people are being ethnically cleansed. And Elon Musk, who tweeted out on X that we need to do something to protect the pets and the wildlife in Ohio. Yeah, Elon, we do. We also need to do something to protect the white people in Ohio and in Ireland and in Sweden and in Germany and in England and in Scotland and in Italy and Greece and Spain and Australia and Canada and New Zealand